We all want to feel seen, to feel connected and validated. For some, that need is now engaged through the landscape of social media, where every moment can be witnessed and commented on by an audience of millions. But does this digital validation meet our deepest human needs? Today, we're joined by prominent Australian entrepreneur, best-selling author, and digital media pioneer, Sophie Cachia. Sophie first gained a following through her viral blog, The Young Mummy, revealing relatable glimpses of her life as a mum and wife. She has since built a multifaceted career as the founder of successful brands such as Cachia. Loved for her candid and vulnerable storytelling, today she opens up about her complex childhood in a surprising and revealing way. Nick, what an enjoyable chat we had with Sophie.
Yeah, I found this chat really engaging and just left feeling very grateful for Sophie for being so willing to be honest and vulnerable in the way that she was to speak about things that are very difficult to speak about, including hidden pain when you're young and also self-harm. Now, we didn't know the conversation was going to go in that direction, but I'm grateful that it did because we just know what a common experience this is, unfortunately, for many Australians, and just also a topic that you don't often hear discussed.
Yeah, it is a complex topic, and I can speak to the fact I've worked with many, many young people in the clinic room who have experienced self-harm. And I know many parents have questions about it, so that's something that we will discuss further in the debrief today.
Yeah. It was also a great opportunity to speak with a prominent influencer about social media, to see her perspective from the inside of it and kind of analyse a little bit of the social media landscape that we all live in now.
Such an important topic, and she's got some really good insights about this as someone who works in that industry. So looking forward to sharing it with you all today. You're a Good Kid is recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and is supported by Engage One-on-One Psychology, helping people engage with life.
This podcast discusses mental health-related themes that may be triggering for some listeners. If anything in the episode causes distress, please contact your health professional, or if urgent, call Lifeline on 13 11 14.
My name is James Van Kuylenberg. I'm a clinical psychologist, and together with my brother Nick, we're going to hear stories from a diverse range of people about how their childhoods have shaped them.
Our guests are invited to share a photo of themselves as kids, which you can see by following the link in the show notes. And at the end of each episode, you'll hear them read a letter to their child selves.
If you could say anything to your child self, what would you say?
Welcome to You're a Good Kid. Sophie Cachia was born in 1990 in Melbourne. While she describes Melbourne as home, she did spend many years living elsewhere as a child, as her family followed her father's AFL coaching career around the country.
So I would have been 4, 5, 6 moving to Adelaide when my dad coached the Crows there. Around 7, 8, I lived in Tasmania, and then Melbourne since, sort of that age, but spent a lot of time visiting Perth as well.
Sophie is the youngest of 4 daughters. She has twin sisters who are 3 years older and another sister who is 6 years older. She describes the family dynamic as fun and playful. And while she lovingly recalls a strong sisterly bond, she also had to work extra hard for attention.
You know, all I ever wanted to do was play with my sisters, and I felt like my twin sisters always had each other. And then perhaps there might have been a bit too big of an age gap between me and my older sister to really connect on that level as kids. But there's something really beautiful about having sisters.
Sophie reflects that her parents performed stereotypical gender roles in their family, with her dad being extremely busy and often away with his work, and her mum juggling the relentless needs of 4 daughters.
I always say to her now, having 3 kids of my own, I don't know how she had a hot dinner. It sounds so cliche, but it's true. She had a hot dinner on a fully set table every night at 6:30. And I just don't know how she physically did that, but she did.
While having an AFL coach for a father certainly provided Sophie and the family with access to exciting sporting events, it did mean that he was often away or unavailable given the demands of his job.
Something about Dad, though, is he always showed up for sport when we needed it. Like, he would take me and my sister Amy to tennis lessons every Wednesday. That was his thing. And he'd always stop at the milk bar and get us a Mars bar on the way, but we were never allowed to tell Mum. So whilst he wasn't there physically because he couldn't be, he definitely, I never felt like he was absent.
Sport was certainly the connective tissue in Sophie's household. And while sometimes she had difficulty gaining the attention and love she craved as a child, she always felt most seen and validated when playing sport.
Even now, sport is such a huge part of my life. It's my favourite thing to do just because it gives me so much joy. And I think it's so important for me at this age to still find that joy like I had as a kid.
Sophie Cachia, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to us
No,
today.
thank you. I'm very excited.
In doing my research for today, I was on your Instagram, and that is a powerful instrument that you've got going there.
Yeah.
And I know that's been a big part of your adult career.
Yep.
But I was looking at your excellent Christmas clothing line that you are currently promoting and seeing you and Sean Zepps doing some excellent work together. It looks like a lot of fun.
Sean is a lot of fun.
Yes.
Sean has brought a lot of fun to this studio. That is for sure.
Yeah, exactly right. And I was just thinking, like, just when you do that, you're obviously being playful, you're having fun, but it's going out to hundreds of thousands of people at a time.
Yeah, it is.
Just before, we're going to talk about your childhood today, but just I'd like to start there and ask you, what's that like when you post something knowing that several 100,000 people are going to see it?
I think I'm probably used to it now. I remember my dad actually said to me once, I remember when I hit 100,000 followers on Instagram, and he said, that's the MCG. I was like, what? He's like, you're standing in the middle of the pitch on the MCG and you've filled the stadium. And I went, oh, wow. When you put it like that, it is easy to get sort of lost in numbers. Like, oh, it's just a number. But, you know, I think now it's around 250,000. Like, that's the MCG twice over. So I think there's part of me that is used to it.
Yeah.
But then when you stop and actually analyse those numbers, I'm
That's
like,
a lot of
wow,
humans.
that is a lot of people.
So you don't get nervous when you're putting yourself out there like that
No,
anymore?
if anything, even after doing it for 12 years, I probably go, why? Like, why are two MCGs filled of people watching me?
Why do you think they're there?
Yeah, like, there's definitely part of me that's like, I actually don't think I'm that exciting. No, I don't get nervous.
Yeah.
There's always been a part of me that's loved being a performer. As a kid, you know, I always was pushing my sisters out of the way to get in front of the family photo you know, that was me. So it's not surprising, I don't think, looking back now. But yeah, that's interesting. No, I don't actually think about it that deeply anymore.
Well, I suppose it's just been normalised for you.
It's so normal to me now.
For, over a decade now, this has been something that you've curated and, been a big part of your career.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in a little while. Obviously, we're here today to go backwards and think about childhood and how it all started for you.
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, is that something you think about much?
I do actually quite a lot now, having 3 of my own children, and I'm still getting used to saying 3 because I have a 7-month-old. But I think every year, it probably sounds a little bit cliche, but every year that goes by, my kids get older and I face something more and my love deepens for them. I do reflect on my parents more than I'd probably ever like to admit in the hard times, the good times, in those little moments where I'm like, oh, Bobby didn't come and give me a kiss goodnight and it hurt my feelings. Like, oh my God, I was so mean to my mum all these times. I feel bad.
It reframes everything, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, anyone can tell you when you're a teenager or when you're 20, you just wait. But it is really true.
Yeah.
But the beauty out of it is the love and admiration I have for my
parents
gets deeper every single year.
Seen through that new lens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. So when we think about your childhood overall, what kind of picture does it paint for you?
I look back now very, very privileged, I was provided with every opportunity I think a kid can be presented with. Went to good schools. My mum bought me the brand new pair of runners before every netball. Like I didn't miss out on anything. And
right, from a kind of comfort point of view?
Comfort point of view, opportunity point of view, holiday point of view. You know, even like my mum would make our lunch boxes, but they were always really healthy lunch boxes. And I looked back and I go, oh God, I missed out on the chips or the roll up. And I'm like, no, I didn't. My mum blessed me with an incredibly healthy upbringing that taught me great eating habits now. So again, the shift from when you're a kid and you think you know it all and that it's, oh, I'm so hard done by, when you're like, wow, they were really giving me the best life I could have had.
Amazing.
So you had it pretty good in that sense, but you had a lot of siblings. There was a lot of noise, I would imagine.
You're one of 4, is that right?
I am the baby of 4 girls.
Yeah. So how was it getting attention from the parents?
Well, I think, and that is, I've done a lot of reflection on this actually, and I think I am, because if you look at my parents, I'm actually nothing like, well, there must be parts, but my mum is the shyest, most introverted, non-confrontational person. My dad certainly has more character and more go about him, I suppose, but often I've gone, where did I come from? Especially in my family, like even my sister's very shy, very reserved. But then on the other hand, I'm like, well, duh, because I was just like, someone look at me, please. And that's not as in like, poor me. I was never crying in the corner, but I use this line in my book where I said I had to jump a little higher to be seen.
Yeah.
It was just often, come on, all right, everyone's ready. All right, Soph, hurry up, you come on, let's go. I was always just chasing it. All right, I'll tie my own shoes up, or I'll do this, I'll do that.
Yes.
Which makes sense being in a busy household, but I think I had to learn to do a lot of things quickly on my own, and I just had to go with it, and life goes on, and you don't have time to eat that, let's go.
Yeah.
Very busy.
And of course, the story goes like the further you are down the chain, like the 4th kid.
Yeah.
By now, the family systems are up and running.
Yeah.
They know they've done this 3 times already. It's like, no, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a bit of that?
Definitely. And that probably still exists today.
Yeah, right.
I actually call myself like the most extroverted introvert, because there's parts of me that are so introverted, and there's this exterior that exists, but we're all human. And so there is this softness inside of me, but very often you're right, you're okay. The amount of times I've been told my whole life, oh, you'll be right, just from what I present, where that's not always the case. So probably it wasn't until probably the last 5 years of my life I was really open with my mum and my dad about me and who is actually in here, and my struggles and what does affect me in life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So was there a sense of hiding identity then, just to fit in, to not be a nuisance as the last child?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I hid a lot of struggles.
You want to tell us about some of those? What sort of things do you feel like you hid as a kid?
I was self-harming at a very young age.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What age are we talking about?
I think I remember the first time I would have been 12, 13 years old.
Unfortunately, not an uncommon thing for a lot of young people.
And I hid it for a very, very long time.
Okay.
You know what? It's probably something I've never actually spoken about face to face with either my parents. I believe they'd be aware of it now. But yeah, I struggled with a lot of anxiety. I look back now too, I had this thing where I always wanted to sleep with my mum, and I could never understand why I was so scared to sleep on my own. I'm like, I had severe anxiety as a kid. And I was in year 12 sometimes still sleeping in my mum's bed just out of comfort, because I'd done it for so long in my life. And it's really funny now. I've co-slept with all my children. My son is now at the age where he's like, Mum, I'm not sleeping with you anymore. And it breaks my heart, because I'm just so used to that comfort of people sleeping next to me. But yeah, I definitely hid.
Did anyone know what you were going through at that time?
I don't know if she'd remember. Maybe in like year 10, I remember one of my sisters, we've never spoken about this, found me laying on my bed. I wasn't self-harming at the time, but I had marks along my arm, and she grabbed it. Never spoken about this, so this would probably bring a lot back for her, and she just burst into tears. She's like, what are you? She knew what I'd been doing. But no, to actually... You know what? The only person to this day I've spoken to about it within my family unit is that same sister's now husband. Because he saw me only a few years ago after going through a relationship breakdown, and he just pulled me aside at their house, and he said, I need to know that you're okay. I know what that, I told them the dog jumped on me and scratched my leg or something, whether I'd been sitting digging a knife into my thigh. And I tried to tell them that my dog, a little dachshund, had jumped up on my leg. And he was actually the only person that pulled me aside and said no. And he's the only person I've actually said that to.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It's quite a big thing to bring up. Are you okay to talk about this, or would you prefer not to?
No, I am. Yep.
I guess I'm curious the balance between what you described your family as kind of, having everything, giving everything, quite loving, quite supportive, in a lot of ways, busy, chaotic, and yet you've got this private struggle going on.
Yeah, and sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's something I I still don't understand. I know why I did it, what I liked feeling in that moment, but I still don't know what caused me to do it. I know what caused me to do it as an adult. It was out of pain that I wanted to relocate somewhere, pain in my chest that I wanted to distract from. But I do not know what caused me to do it as a child.
I know that there can be obviously a lot of secrecy around that kind of thing for young people who are going through it and they don't feel like people will understand or they feel like they might take it away and it feels like a kind of source of coping.
Yep.
I often say with self-harm for young people, like it feels like a friend, but it's the worst kind of friend. You know, it's like it feels like something that's safe and comforting and yours and kind of, you know, helpful. But of course, it's literally harmful. I mean, this is a big topic, but do you feel like through those years, maybe you can tell us how long it was actually happening for when you were 12, but did you come to an understanding at some point that this isn't the right way to go about expressing these feelings, or was there how did it, you know, kind of resolve?
Maybe you've just hit it on the head then. I have always struggled with how to express my feelings in the sense of probably how to deal with my own emotions. And now as an adult, I obviously have the resources and have done the work to understand it.
You've done the work now to understand it, but at the time?
At the time, it's one of those things, and I can only speak from my experience. When you're doing it, it feels good in the moment. But there's always like that period about an hour later when the adrenaline's worn off and the physical pain kicks in or the embarrassment and the shame. So you always definitely come back to this is wrong. It's not beneficial. But in that moment, but I just
what when you're saying it felt good, what need do you think it was fulfilling for you as a kid?
I don't know. I enjoyed feeling pain.
And do you remember friends doing the same thing?
I remember a girl in my netball team came to netball training once and she also had marks all over her arms and all over her arms, one random netball training. We never spoke about it, but I remember being envious of her that she was free to show her arms off. Like she wasn't embarrassed by them. Whether if that was me, it would have been a jumper.
You had already started doing it by that point.
Yes, I was already doing it. So when I saw her,
precursor.
okay, she does it too. Why isn't she embarrassed about it? Why is, but feeling jealous that she was okay to. So I don't know. Like I was so shameful, but yet there was something that just gave me so much joy. It just, as I'm saying this, I'm like, this makes no sense, but it did. It gave me so much joy at that time, hurting myself.
Joy is an interesting word, isn't it?
It is an odd word to use in this topic.
It's okay. I've heard people talk about it in terms of relief or feeling something or kind of comfort behavior or, as you said, like
relief is
pain.
A great word. And relief from what? At 12 years old, I'm not sure. Relief is a great word, like a stress reliever. Like I associate it now with, I used to smoke cigarettes once upon a time and that lighting up that first cigarette, that's probably when I think back to, that's what it, but this wanting to hurt and punish myself. Well, I wasn't a bad person at 12. Right. I wasn't doing anything that
It's so heartbreaking to think of you that young. So thank you for trusting us to share that.
It is now that I think that my son is 11.
Yeah,
I just
the innocence of that age.
That's right. Yeah. And to imagine him, going through secret pain and wanting to help him, I'd imagine that's on your mind.
That is actually, that's breaking my heart now more than thinking of little me to think a year on from my son now doing that.
That's right. And of course, we're trying here to explore the stories that lead us to everything that eventuates. So, maybe you could paint the picture for us a little bit more of the younger you. Like,
you mean prior to this?
Yeah. Because there was something
pre-12.
There was lots that was fascinating in your book, but you mentioned when you were around 5 some really difficult experiences over in Adelaide. Yeah. Maybe you could take us back and just tell us about some of the events that led up to you.
I always get emotional when I talk about this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Looking back on my whole life now, I think because of my personality, I've been loud, I've been confident, I've been this. I've often been accused of being a bully. And looking back in high school, absolutely, I would have been at some stages for sure. But I've been bullied a lot and it's taken me this long. Well, I would argue it still happens adults can be the worst bullies. But yeah, I take you back to, I was 5, 6 years old. I was in prep over in Adelaide, and my dad was coaching the Adelaide Crows. They were not doing very well. And we were ostracized at school, not just me, all my sisters. We often ate our cheese sandwiches in the principal's office at lunchtime. Looking back, I don't know if that was guided by the school, by my parents, by us. I can't remember, but I do remember being asked to go to the office at lunchtime and walk in, and my sisters are there with their unpacked lunchbox, and I just think, oh, I'm having a picnic in the principal's office with my sisters. I remember I have a vision of my mum early in the morning. I was trying to find her in the morning. Where are you? And she was on her hands and her knees in her slippers and her dressing gown. The sun hadn't even come up yet, scrubbing eggs off my dad's car, trying to clean it before he woke up to go to work. I also remember me and my sisters thinking it was a game of running out the front. We'd hear it and we'd run out the front, and who could collect the most eggshells off our front porch. That was a game for us, not realizing what was actually happening.
You guys were really harassed and under attack.
Yeah, and then our friend ended up being our friend who we'd wave to when we went to school was a security guard that sat in the car at the front of our house.
Oh, wow.
And again, not understanding these things at the time, being like, hey, he's our friend. But not knowing that our family and our home needed to be protected at that time. So, yeah, the worst experience of my life to date was being a little girl. And again, my memory is so blurred because I was so young. And a bunch of kids came up to me at school, boys, older boys. Your dad's a loser, your dad's a dickhead, surrounded me, crying. I'm not playing with anyone already. Pushed me to the ground, kicked me, wouldn't let me get up. And then my sisters ran over. And I just remember reaching out, and she just stood there because she was too scared to help me. And so that was a horrible experience. Now, I don't know if that from that moment I built this facade of things don't bother me or things don't affect me. But again, I look back now at my own children, and I cannot fathom that happening to them.
I mean, that's awful to hear that
over
story.
Over a football game.
Over anything, but just that kind of pack mentality, the mob coming after you as a little kid. But also
that those kids have been taught that from somewhere. Go to school and tell them their dad sucks. These were kids as well, and they've been,
Did your mum and dad know you'd experienced that?
I can't remember, honestly. My sister who ran over, she does, and she, I wrote it in my book, and she had sort of blacked it out of her memory until she reread it, and she was traumatized because she goes, I'll never forget your face looking at you, and I didn't help you, I couldn't help you.
Quite a powerful image, like reaching out for that support and it's
or just
not there.
seeing her coming and almost feeling that sense of like, oh, my big sister's coming, but then her just stopping because I can't do anything right now for you.
So it's interesting again, like just hearing you say I had every opportunity and, you did in some ways, but you also had some serious vulnerabilities and things that I think would have made you feel quite unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is easy to go, oh, yeah, but I had a good life and my parents loved me. I think it's really easy to disregard a lot of major things that have happened because a lot of things were good. But yeah, it's not until I talk about them I'm like, wow, that was actually really bad.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. I mean, another thing I'd be really fascinated to hear, like you've already spoken about your parents in a really beautiful, glowing light and, you're appreciating them more and more as you become a parent. We've experienced the same thing.
Yep.
There was a few things in your book that really caught my attention though. You joked about the idea that your dad kind of saw you as, how did you describe it?
His little boy.
Your boy experiment.
Yeah.
Now, obviously you shared a lot of loving memories with the sport, but can you tell us what that dynamic was like and maybe the expectation that was there to engage in sport? Yeah,
actually now that you've said that, everyone has joked to my dad his whole life that, oh, I bet you wish Soph was a boy. And still to this day, he's adamant. He gets really angry when people say it. He's like, no. But I do look back now and I'm like, none of the other girls were put in cricket at 5. None of the others were taught how to kick a footy at the age of 4. None of the others were in boxing lessons. So, maybe he just thought, oh, I have some fun with this one, or the others are sort of going all in the same direction.
And they knew they weren't maybe having any other kids. And,
yeah. And I don't look at it in any other way but sort of almost of course he did that. Like he had played he got drafted, I think at 16 years old from Tassie. And, you know, he can tell me all he wants. He can say it all he wants. No, never, no, Dad, I'm realistic. That doesn't mean he doesn't love me. It doesn't mean he didn't love me at the time, but he's absolutely kidding when he tries to tell me I wasn't, you know, I was hoping you're a boy, like you were. It's okay. It's okay to say that as well.
But you loved your sport, and of course,
I did.
That doesn't have to be a boy thing, right?
And he probably realised too, and I can say this, I was good at it too. Like I picked up things really young. My mum used to say at 18 months old or 2, you know, the totem tennis, the old. She said you would just stand there as a toddler
just
in a nappy.
Or with your sisters?
No, just me, and just the hand-eye coordination. And so they and my mum too. It looks like my parents were like trying to build me or mold me into being some professional athlete, but I enjoyed it. I loved everything. So when my sisters were at school, I have memories of my mum and I standing in the kitchen, and she'd make me bounce tennis balls, like, you know, opposite hands to learn how to catch both hands. But I loved it. I was like, all right, what can I do next? Like teach me something else. So it wasn't like they weren't chaining me up, you know, to train. I was like, give me something else to do. I'm going to show you I can do it.
Yeah.
Like I liked being good at things from an early age.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. But did you feel pressure around it?
No, not at all. I think I did feel pressure when I was a teenager, when it was sort of, you know, you hit that teenage age where, you know, you've represented Victoria in a sport, or you've made this team, or you've made that. And there comes a point now I know when it's like you need to choose whether you are committing or you're going to fall away.
Yep.
And that's when probably the pressure started. But
What age are we talking there?
15, 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
I'd made the under 15 Victorian netball team. So you sort of go up in the pathway if you make the under 12s, 15s, 17s. Normally, if you're still in it around the 17s, you're normally around 18, that age picked up by, now it would be a super netball team. So, you know, I was on every pathway.
Yeah.
But I did my ACL at the age of 14. Which a 14-year-old girl, it might be common now. It wasn't really common back then. And I remember when I did it, I just made the team, but I was playing in my local Thursday night team. And big pop in my knee, and my mum was just devastated. And I was like, oh, I've just got an injury. Like I remember it really hurt, and I remember being like, I felt like someone just shot me in the kneecap. But at that age, I didn't comprehend how serious it could be. Long story short, groundbreaking, I'd done my ACL, and within 2 days I was in with Julian Feller, the head AFL, you know, he does all the boys. And these are the privileged things I talk about, right? I spoke to 2 professional AFL sports doctors on that night, and within 48 hours I'd had a knee reco by Julian Feller.
Unbelievable.
I did my whole rehab in the Essendon Football Club. I had access to every one of their doctors. I was bringing home their ice machines. So, and I look back, I'm like, my parents did everything again to give me every opportunity to get back. And I got back in 10 months, which is 2 months shorter than what they guide you that you're going to get back. And from that moment, I think I'd mentally logged out. I look back and I just wasn't prepared to work hard. You know, my dad can't even run, and he was down doing my straight line running with me. Right. Like they did everything to get me back. So it wasn't pressure. No, it was, I see it that they provided me with opportunity because they believed in me. And so when at 16, sort of a year, you know, I went back, played a year. I think I got
you made the call, I don't want to pursue this anymore.
Well, after that, you know, I think I fell into a little bit of the typical teenage. I'm going out, I'm doing this. You don't know me. I
Rebellious
just need to
period.
be myself. Yeah. And like I was never into drugs or anything like that. So I didn't rebel in that sense. But my friends and my family, like, let me do this and let me do that. And I can see now that, oh, wow, I'm looking back at all these things. I'm like, oh my God, my parents provided me with every opportunity possible.
So sometimes when we start our conversation, we begin with some photos, but we've just got right into the chat today, which has been really lovely. But have you brought some photos you might like to share with us and describe for our listeners?
Yeah, I have. This photo is of me. I probably am about 6 months old there. Yeah, it's just, there was something powerful about that photo because I can see my daughter in me. I look exactly like her.
Yep.
And I know I love holding my baby now, and I'm like, my mum holding me, it's just no different. That has never changed.
That's lovely.
I have I have always been her baby, and I always will, regardless of how old and grown up I think I have been over the years, she's still watching her baby do things for the first time, just like I'm seeing my baby do things for the first time.
Oh, that's lovely. And did you have a photo with your siblings you wanted to share?
I do.
So this is a photo of the four of you in bed together.
So my older sister,
in your
Kate,
pajamas.
that is Zoe,
Yeah.
and that is Amy, and I've always been able to tell them apart from every photo, even when they're babies.
Yeah.
I think that's a sister trick, but just the memories I have of it was almost like sleepovers every night with my sisters, whether that was just our life, but it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, even now, like when we all get together, it's pretty much just it's those four girls again.
And what did you feel like babied by them with a little bit as well? Was there a kind of motherly thing about them at times because you were the
No,
littlest?
if anything, I was, all right, we're playing mums and dads, you're the dad. Or we're playing cops and robbers, you're the robber. Like I always got given the shit job and I just had to cop it. Like it was bad luck. So I did what I was told.
Yes.
I got given what role I got given. I got told to stand there, do this, do that. And maybe now that's why when I do reflect, I'm like, maybe that's why I like to do all this stuff now because I'm in control now.
Yeah.
You get the good role.
Yeah, I get to choose what my role is now.
And you had described that kind of, like maybe part of your extroversion was please see me, please notice me.
Yep.
Do you think you did feel noticed and seen?
No, I don't think so. In the first sort of decade of my life, like I said, it's just a blur. It was just fast paced. Go in the car, tie your shoes yourself, grab this, grab that. But I don't think, I was seen unless it was sport related in those. That's when it started to really.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I don't say that of a place of resentment or anything.
It was just how the family
It's just real
functioned.
life.
Yeah.
I now have kids of my own and I now am so intentional with spending individual time with them. So it's really important for me. It's so hard. I understand the balance is hard.
That's a correction you're trying to make based on what you went through.
Yeah. And I think I always wanted my mum to be my best friend. And I wanted that girlfriend's relationship with my mum. Let's, in your teenager, let's talk about boys. Let's talk about this. And I never had it. My mum was, like I said, she ran a tight ship. She was a teacher by trade. There was rules. There was boundaries. There was this. And I tried to crack her. And then when I realized at 16, 17, I couldn't crack her, I pulled back from her and you're horrible and you're this and you're that.
Rebelled against. Was there warmth and affection when you were younger from mum?
But not as much as I'd probably wanted. And it took me a really long time, again, being in a place of acceptance, of learning that people don't always love you in the way that you want to be loved. And it doesn't mean they don't love you. Like my mum was very action-based. So if we'd had, even now to this day, she'll come over and I'm like, Mum, sit down, have a cup of tea, let's just chat. But she'll clean my house or she'll do the kids' rooms or she'll do that. And
which I'm sure is enormously valued. And now you probably feel very loved when she does that.
Oh my God,
now.
of course. But I'm like, that's how she shows her love. And it took me a very long time to be okay with that. I wanted her to call me babe and sit on the couch and like, so how was the party? Or like to be the friend. And both of us took a long time, probably 25, 30 years, I would say, to accept the love from each other.
And it's beautiful that you can understand it like that now.
It took me a long time to understand it. We used to butt heads, my mum and I, especially through my late teenage years and all through my 20s. I demanded this love and affection from her that I was.
It sounds like an anger came out about it.
Anger
like
came out and just a why.
But you mentioned in the book that you didn't hear I love you very much.
Very often. Again, it's that lack of really emotional connection. Wasn't a lack of love though. It was a lack of a verbal, but that now understanding as a woman, that is just my mum in who she is. So
I can't help but think of you though as a 12-year-old, secretly self-harming, desperately wanting to feel love.
Yeah.
You're feeling this other way, this kind of secret, painful way.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, maybe I wished that she'd seen it. So she might have grabbed me and hugged me.
Well, that would make a lot of sense. But she didn't know you were going through that.
No, she did not have any idea. No.
Yeah. Do you think you were lonely during those years?
Yeah.
Around 12?
I do. I think I was lonely a lot in my life, despite being surrounded by a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying so hard to figure out who I was or fit in.
Yeah.
That felt like something that I knew.
Well, the cost of not feeling seen or really, loved in the way you desired to be loved.
Yeah.
I could imagine that would feel lonely. And what about school at that point? You've told us about school being tricky when you were around 5.
Yep.
What about high school?
So again, I go back to that bullying aspect. And again, in high school, I can admit I wasn't the greatest friend all the time either. I certainly had my faults, but I do reflect a lot of periods in my life where really mean girls, really nasty girls who just shut me out all the time. That has happened a lot to me in my life, where my closest friends have all of a sudden banded together and just gone,
can be very cruel.
with no explanation.
And how do you experience that when it happened?
Oh, it's horrific. Oh, I know how I dealt with it. Oh, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I always cared.
Yep.
It always hurt so much every time it happened.
You alluded to something before that sometimes people have accused you of being the bully, which is not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
Almost like a defense mechanism or a playing out what's happened to us and try and regain some power. We can find ourselves doing that to others. Did that become a trend?
I've always been quite defensive and reactive. That's something I've really worked on in the past couple of years, and I've definitely got better at it. But, once upon a time, I would say I loved confrontation. I loved standing up or, arguing. I loved arguing. But I also think, and it's not to make excuses, but I was a very, doesn't sound like I was, but I believed I was a very sure of myself person. I was very confident. And from an early age, it made a lot of people very uncomfortable.
Yes. But they might have also assumed that you were fine.
It was that's been the biggest fault my whole life. Everyone in my life has assumed I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because you appear so self-assured.
Because I appear just so fine.
But you're talking about a kind of, insecure or fragile underbelly that people didn't get to see.
Yeah, but also just there always was, and there definitely is now, there's a really kind, empathetic person inside, and I know that. I am so confident in that. But as a woman, which we see quite a lot, any woman who has any confidence or any toughness or any just any ounce of being sure in who they are or being okay with who they are, good, bad or ugly, is a pushback. And so I've always really struggled with the feminism message of, be yourself or, stand up. I feel like as a woman, once you've done that, you're torn down by other women.
Right.
So I always got along with boys better.
Yep.
So they would respond well to you being assertive?
Yeah. Fine. They were okay with it. Girls were never okay with it.
Do you think they were threatened?
I do. And I still do think, and I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about any self-assured woman or any person. And people confuse with me being confident or liking who I am as that I think I'm amazing. That's absolutely not the case.
Right.
I am far from it, but I'm okay with that. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And it's certainly in my life has made other females uncomfortable.
And you think that's because of the messaging that they received about what their role should be?
Yeah, or just I feel like too, and I'm trying to really instill it into my daughter now, girls are very like pack mentality. Young girls are not often brave enough to go, no, actually I don't like that. And I was always that girl to go, I don't like sitting here talking about people, or, oh, we're going to braid each other's hair today. Oh, I don't want to. I'm going to go kick the footy with the boys. Oh, well, we don't like you anymore.
Yes,
I was always okay from a young age to make my own decision without being influenced. And that especially I found, like boys at that age, they don't care about that stuff. You want to play soccer today? Oh, I don't care. Bye. See you in class. With the girls, you should want to be with your girlfriends all the time. You should want to walk around holding hands. But I always wanted to do what I wanted to do. And so I never fell into that.
Well, that part sounds healthy.
That girl, yeah, it does, but it has caused me a lot of issues in my life.
Or isolation from the girls.
Isolation.
And did you have any close girlfriends through that period that didn't apply to?
I always have, always close friends, but there would always be Sophie. Like, of course you'd say that. There was always a comment if I thought something different or if I wanted to do something different or if I was proud of something and said, I think I look nice today, or, anything. Oh, Sophie, like the amount of times I heard that my whole life. Oh, that's just Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that mean?
So I'm curious, like adding all these things together, looking back, what do you think your true self-worth was like as a kid?
Yeah, I've often thought about that. Horrible.
You do? You think it was bad?
Yep.
And of course, the self-harm would suggest there's something about that
absolutely.
I really don't like myself very much potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you say very bad? What comes to mind?
I just think the way I treated myself in those times, and I also think, which did follow through to my adulthood, the way I allowed myself to be treated, whether that was friends, relationships, people, by acting like it didn't bother me when it did.
When the wall went up.
And it did bother me, but I pretended it. So allowing or continually putting myself in those positions and staying there.
I see.
Okay.
Yep. So people are treating you badly and you're going, that's fine, I don't care.
Whatever,
and they
it
keep doing
didn't bother me, I'll still see you tomorrow, whether it did bother me.
Yep.
And I didn't tell them it bothered me. I just pretended I didn't care. So I think that really shows the lack of respect I had for myself.
Right.
Did you have that front when you were alone as well? Like, did that kind of act that you were playing out, was it just socially, or was that a story you were telling yourself 24/7?
I was definitely telling myself that.
Yeah.
But then when we returned to the self-harm moment, I wasn't telling myself in that moment. I was saying, you're stupid, you're an idiot.
You're fighting against it.
Oh, the narrative was self-flagellating while you were self-harming.
Idiot. Like,
right. So it's interesting when you say you loved it. There was a rush, there was adrenaline that the pain would cause.
I loved hurting myself. I wanted to cause myself
because you thought you deserved it.
Because clearly,
Gosh, that's sad.
Yeah.
How does that feel to think back to that time now?
Yeah, there is a sadness to it, but there's a great sense of pride knowing I got myself out of that.
Right.
Good.
Tell us about that.
The last time I self-harmed was in 2022, so we're only going back 3 years ago.
Right.
It was after a relationship breakdown, and afterwards, my best friend said to me, because she was aware of it, she knew that I'd struggled with it off and on, and she knew that I had done it. She rang me. She lived in Gold Coast at the time, and she said, please don't tell me you've hurt yourself. Like, she knew I had, and I said, yeah. And she said, don't you ever let anyone make you hurt yourself ever again. Mm-hmm. And there was just a switch in me where those words from my best friend, it was that I was not going to let anyone make me do, not that they made me do that, but I made a decision in that moment. I'm never going to be in this position again. It was, only 3 years ago.
Do you know that voice sounds kind of motherly to me from, that directive?
Yeah. Well, my best friend on the phone was very motherly, and it was finger pointing on FaceTime, and it was tears down. Don't you fucking ever let anyone cause this again. Mm-hmm. And I took that as me as well. I can't let myself do this again.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So where does that, that's like, 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
So in the wake of that, it hasn't happened again?
Never.
What's happening there in terms of your self-worth at this point, from this
there's definitely times I think about it.
Uh-huh.
Of course.
But I
don't want to be that person. Yeah. I don't want to do that to myself anymore.
Great. I think it's worth recognizing that, you would have heard us say on this podcast, like we kind of, our child self doesn't leave us, and the things we go through as kids, they're still relevant, now. So the fact that under duress, in moments of great stress, you've kind of reverted back to this childhood coping mechanism, this secret, this pain, doesn't surprise me. But bringing it out into the open and recognizing I need to stop this pattern and there's some serious
I
healing
needed to break that pattern. I
to
didn't want to
self.
be that person for the rest of my life, and I didn't deserve it either because it did, like I said, you remove the adrenaline and you move the emotion from that moment. The next day it really hurts. And that's when once all that emotion had gone and I'd sort of calmed and all of that, and I'm sitting there going, oh, you're an idiot. Why'd you do that to you? And that's when I'd be like, why are you doing this? You don't think that logic in the moment. Mm-hmm. But the reality is I'm putting betadine on my legs, my arms, I used to crush glass in my hands. Yeah. And so my hands would be all cut up. And then the next day I go, I've got to go to work, or I've got to look after the kids. And I can't do, it didn't serve my life. Not that it ever did, but I had more I don't know.
I think it's very brave of you to talk about this so openly, perhaps in a way that
The
you
only
haven't
time,
before.
no, I've never, the only time is in my book.
Yeah.
No. But I think too, because I'm at a point where I know I will never do it again.
Well, that's terrific.
So I can talk
and
about
so there's growth that's happening for you in real time, which is great to see. But thanks for sharing that, because obviously there'll be people who've experienced it themselves. There'll be people.
Sorry, I've made this a really heavy episode,
it's
haven't
okay.
I?
Yeah, thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
We've got the space to do it here.
Yeah.
And,
There'll also be people worried about their kids listening to that.
Yeah.
I guess I want to ask you, what do you wish your parents had said or asked or noticed that might, because you're telling us they've got this yearning to be seen and heard. What do you wish your parents had said to you during that period?
I wish that mental health had been a more recognised
You mean in
illness.
society or just at home?
In society, and therefore I think it would have been more recognised within my home.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't discussed at all how you were feeling.
And at times I remember we're going 15, 16, 17 again, in that time where I say I sort of pushed away from my mum, trying to open up. I think I need to speak to a psychologist. What do you need to do that for?
Right. It was shut down?
Shut down.
Uh-huh.
So I wish, if there was one thing I could change, I wish that had been encouraged.
That it had been taken seriously and that you'd been given therapeutic help back then.
Because I knew that there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to fix it. So it's not like I was in denial myself. I knew a lot of my childhood and my adolescence especially that my brain wasn't working properly. I didn't need to be talking to myself like this. And even now, like I've been medicated now since 2020. And if I had a sore knee and I needed to take an anti-inflammatory, it made my knee work better, I would do it and I wouldn't even question it. I look at it like I need my brain to work better to its, best ability. So I'd take my tablet.
I think your transparency around this is really refreshing and helpful.
Well, I just think there's this whole side to me that people wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And it's not that I need to prove it, but I suppose it's just an opportunity for, life's hard. I wrote this in my letter. Life is hard. And that's what I've realized as I've gotten older again. Life is hard for everybody. And I believe mental health affects everyone in some shape or form, whether that's themselves, family member. Like everyone really does struggle with something. And I'm far, there's more to me than standing in a pajama photo shoot on your phone, on your app.
And I'm curious about this because I'm thinking now in the context of your career, which I'm sure people listening will know, but for those that don't, you have a very large Instagram profile that you've spent a long time. You were, what was your initial title around the mummy? It was
the young mummy.
Young mummy. And you
pregnant
had your
at
blog.
22.
So you fell pregnant at 22. You've had to figure out, right, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
Life's taken a big turn. Maybe you could just paint the picture for us and tell us the story of how that career emerged. And then we'll dig in.
So my background, I always studied journalism at uni, media and comms, loved that. As a teenager too, I was seeing my dad in footy. I always saw the likes of Tiffany Cherry and Caroline Wilson, and I saw these women in this male-dominated space, and it was footy. I loved sport, and I'm like, what a job. I love being on camera, and I get to watch sport. That's my dream. So I go with my dad to all the press conferences, and I just was like, that has to be me one day. I was at uni, was in my second year of sports journalism, doing really well, got pregnant, which I was happy with. I was fine with, but young, pregnant, boyfriend on a rookie wage at a footy club, but very much didn't want a handout. So I quickly learnt I needed to find a different avenue to make money. I couldn't, I was working at High Point at a clothing store. I couldn't, I did that while I was pregnant until I couldn't.
But journalism didn't seem possible at that moment.
Not possible. And I did. I went to uni until I was like 6-7 months pregnant. But at that moment it needed to pause. And then I found myself having that, there was an itch I needed to scratch. I needed to write. I needed to produce. I needed to connect somewhere. And the idea of just like jotting down my thoughts about my pregnancy and storytelling just came so naturally. And this was before even Instagram was even a thing. This was just a traditional WordPress blog post that I started.
I remember those.
Yeah. And I really just did it like for myself. I just needed that creative outlet. And the first one I did, hundreds of thousands of views. I don't even know how people saw it. I was in the back end. Like, I didn't even know how to work this website.
So strange.
It was so odd. Like you got to remember, this is before anything on social media.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, really, I don't know if you swear on here. I know I have, but I'm like, how the fuck have all these people from the UK, you know, like what is going on?
Yeah.
But then I was getting like, again, in the back end of WordPress, these emails from people like, hey, I loved it. When's your next one? I was like, people want me to actually do this.
Uh-huh.
So I did. And I started writing, you know, twice weekly, just what I was experiencing. And I think at the time I provided a really refreshing, authentic, honest storytelling of my experiences. And then Instagram sort of came into it later. So Instagram, again, at the time wasn't a strategy. It was anything. It was simply an app where you upload a photo with an ugly filter on it. But I remember Beck Judd, you know, Chris Judd's wife, the hottest thing at the time, she shared one of my blog posts, and then it goes up again, bang, bang, bang. And then very quickly I had a message from Target over their Instagram and said, can we pay you $150? And I went, oh my God, to take free clothes firstly, but $150.
I feel like you might have been the first influencer.
I can confidently say I was the first sort of mummy blogger in this space. Influencers back then, or bloggers, was Perez Hilton from America, and then your traditional wags in the media, the big dogs, Beck Judd sharing my post.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're doing it differently.
Yes.
As in you were being very open and honest.
Yeah, there was
I knew for me, right, I've told this story before. I was 22 or 23 by the time I had Bobby. I was vomiting so much being pregnant. I remember, I'm sorry, we've just gone from really emotional to that. I vomited so much one time I shit myself when I was pregnant.
Right.
We've gone there.
Post-worthy.
Yeah.
And I remember going, why does no one tell you this?
Right.
I'm growing this facial hair. My boobs are horrendous, all this stuff. And I'm like, back then, it's so normal now. But this is going back then, 12 years ago.
And you told those stories.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm growing hair in places I shouldn't ever see. And I just started writing it, and I wrote it as I'm saying now, fuck this, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, oh, I love this. It was so refreshing. So I think I was one of the first in those early days to create a space of such honesty and authenticity. It didn't exist back then, and it does now.
Right.
But it didn't back then. So it was just like like I said, all those people that were reading it, a lot of it would have just been like, oh my God, have you seen this?
Quite interesting, the contrast there, right? Where you've found this true, authentic expression in that area.
Yeah.
But you've explained to us your sense of self over here was kind of not, you know, like there was a secret part and the hardened like.
Yeah, but I look back now and I can admit I wouldn't have at the time that I did want that attention. I did want that notoriety. I wanted the fame. I wanted people to know me. And I think, but was it because I was so actually unhappy and I wanted to look this and I wanted to be here and I wanted to be that. And
but the fact that you did it with authenticity.
I did it with authenticity and writing about things that no one would have, but I did love the attention it did bring in.
It makes so much sense. And I guess, no criticism to your mum. I know that you're saying like she loved you in the way that she was capable of, but you were desperately wanting a certain kind of love.
Yeah.
And now it feels like you're getting it from hundreds of thousands.
I was getting it from strangers on the internet.
I can imagine that would have been quite the rush.
It was, and I was getting paid for it.
Yep.
From my couch, breastfeeding my baby. It was a dream.
I'd love to know a bit more about what that feels like, having hundreds of thousands of people affirm you. But of course, it's just on a screen. You're not face to face with anyone. So what are the limits of that affection? What did it actually do for you? And what was still missing?
It's just so instantaneous. Like it was just being liked by so many people. It was so exciting. It was so fulfilling. Even though it was
very seen, right? That was a missing ingredient, and now it's happening.
And everyone likes social media until they're not liked. Social media is great when everyone's like, you look amazing, like, love heart, love heart. That's what social media is. You love it for that, yes, to be seen, but also there is that if no one wanted to be on social media for that validation point of it, they wouldn't have the like tools, the comment tools, all of that.
But I guess I'm wondering, was it actually validating? How much of a simulation of real interaction it is?
Only temporarily.
Yeah.
And then you'd post another one to get you high. It's sort of like everything I'm going back to is like the cigarette theory. it was, and then it'd go away. Okay, so I need to post again. Oh, now I need to post again. And then you fall into the trap of everything I was doing. Oh, I have to share this because this is so cute. I have to share this. And then you just fall into it.
I guess I'm curious though about, you've done that for what, like 12 years or something, the pressure to continually keep that kind of performative public persona going.
Yep.
What's that like?
And it is. It's performative, good or bad.
You got to keep the wheel spinning.
You got to keep the wheel spinning, but you can't be too good. You've got to show a bit of bad. You can't be too bad because then people will go, oh, well, you're too depressing. So you've got to constantly cater to so many different varying opinions.
Do you ever think I've had it? I don't want to do this anymore? What's that like?
Absolutely. Been many a times, probably once I turned 30, where I was like, is this worth it? Like my mental health, the negative media, the clickbaity things, being included in things I didn't even want to be included in. For sure. There's been many times I said, I'm done. But I go back to that reality. At that point, I'd become divorced my husband. I've got my kids. This makes me money, and it made me a lot of money at that time. You just have to put up with it because you've got to put this roof over your kid's head. And my manager, who is now my very good friend I've worked very close with, I've had many conversations where I said, this. And he goes, that's fine, Soph, delete it all. Go work a normal job and do the grind. And I say, I don't want to. And he's like, well, you know what you're doing, So whilst I don't accept vile behavior, there are a lot of parts of it you just have to tolerate if this is the life that you want.
So I guess I'm thinking with regards to the last few years and you making choices about how you're going to treat yourself going forward and trying to treat yourself more kindly.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a way to do it and integrate it more healthily, like in a way that doesn't kind of, I don't know.
Well, I've certainly, and you hear this all the time, I've pulled back. I have completely shifted the way that I put myself out there on social media. I have completely pulled back on the intimate family privacy. Right. Once upon a time, I would let everyone into every aspect of my home, and I'm mortified that I did that. It worked at the time. It served me at the time.
Mortified, why?
Because every person, no matter who you are, deserves privacy. And privacy is beautiful. Privacy is so magical, and it's yours, and you have control over who gets to in that private bubble. And so now being so in control and having very strong boundaries in who gets to come into that bubble. So whilst, yes, I still do have social media and I do still share quite a lot, it often looks like a lot more is shared than actually is. And the reality is I have a business, a sleepwear business, e-commerce, marketing, everything is online these days. So there is an aspect where work, Sophie, as a co-founder of a business, you can't have a business these days without social media. But in terms of the Sophie on her personal, if I'm to be completely transparent, I wish I could pull back even more. I can't right now, but I am working towards it.
Can I just clarify that regret you have there? Is it about what you shared of yourself or the family that you brought in?
A lot of both. A lot of both. Once upon a time, I would have said, I believed in that saying, don't regret anything. At the time, it's what you wanted. I have so many regrets of what I've done on social media. So many. But it's taught me what I don't want to do anymore. So
that's a powerful
in turn,
thing
it's
to be
a
honest
positive.
about too. For people listening to this who follow you with aspirations to maybe model some of the things you've done.
I have so many regrets with my children, with relationships, with family, with any intimate details. No, I do. I have a lot of regrets, but that's,
My sense is that attitudes to social media are shifting away from the personal, like a little bit in general. Like I certainly feel that way.
It goes in waves. Yeah. It definitely goes in waves. Like something popped up on my feed the other day, and it was the biggest contradiction to who I once was. Another podcast popped up, and it was two girls talking about how she was pregnant and sex with her husband or something. And I went, I scrolled up whether once upon a time, that's all I talked about. And I'm like, I'm normal. I'm talking about sex and I'm talking about this and normal. And I'm like, that's fine. But it was just it was a really big wake up call for me of how far I've come because I thought, I didn't really want to hear that first thing in the morning. Whether people would argue I've built my whole platform off being that person. That's fine.
Do you think part of the shift is thinking about your kids now and the current generations on social media?
Yeah, for sure. But also just reflecting on a lot of choices I've made in the past too, and protecting my own peace as well.
So this evolution you've been going through, it sounds like it's been progressive and cumulative, and you've arrived at what feels like a new chapter. In the
Yeah, a
last few
really
years.
nice place too.
Yeah, where do you want to take that?
Well, I just want to say that in the past I've said that, I'm in a really nice place, and I've been completely lying.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do feel like, and I'm not there, I don't know if we ever get there completely, but I feel really nice now, and just I can breathe a bit. Where do I want to get to? I would love to not even need my own personals. I would love to build my business to the point where Sophie Cachia doesn't need her own personal
account.
account.
You can step back completely and
I
let
would
the
love that.
business just do its thing.
I would love Cachia to be at a point where I'm no longer required to be public.
What about for you? What do you want?
That.
Right. To step back.
That's
and
exactly what I
reinvent
want.
yourself
Yeah.
outside of the internet.
And I would really like to revisit a lot of my passions that I once had, which is the journalism background, this having conversations. I'm so okay with being irrelevant now on social media.
Good on you.
I'm so okay with it.
It evokes feeling content within yourself in a way that you hadn't before.
Yeah.
And that's lovely.
That need
hear
for
that.
validation is completely
It's
gone.
shifting.
Yeah. And I can reflect on my life. And again, liking yourself doesn't mean I am perfect. It doesn't mean I've always been perfect. It means I can reflect and know where I went right and wrong. But either way, I'm okay with that now.
My lovely wife followed your career all the way through. So I checked in with her before coming to get the chance to talk to you today. I was like, what's your, sense of Sophie? And she said, I find her refreshingly honest. And I think I've had a great experience of that today too. Just that your willingness to be vulnerable and share what you're really going through. And the fact that you're even doing that more now, I think that's quite exciing for you. Like that you can take that skill and
It's
promote
because I want to, not because I'm feeling the need to be performative, as you said.
It's not just a business decision.
No, it's because I actually want to.
Sophie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I feel great for you, having heard, where you've come from and that, thinking back to that lonely, hurting girl and seeing you now at a place of self-acceptance. It's really quite lovely to see.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I'm all zen after that.
Yeah, it's also the lemon and ginger tea.
Yeah, I know. The extra strong tea bag lifting.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
thank you. I
so
really
much.
appreciate it.
And we'll look forward to hearing your letter.
Oh, yes.
All right. Firstly, I just want to reiterate that Sophie's transparency was just really brave and refreshing, and really for someone with a social profile like she has to share what she did, I just think it's commendable.
It's fantastic, isn't it? That's the kind of vulnerability that we hope we get with our guests, but she does that really easily. She's obviously been practicing it quite some time, and it's what I think has drawn her audience to her, that willingness to be so honest.
Yeah. And hopefully that's just helpful and comforting for people that maybe have experienced similar things in their life to just hear a story like that and feel a bit less alone and a bit heard.
Yeah. And look, we haven't talked about self-harm much on this podcast yet. So I was, as you mentioned earlier, grateful that she was willing to go there. But it is something we should address a little more now, as we said. So self-harm, Nick, is all too common. Many, many young people, particularly in teenage years, do explore it. And I don't think there's any one reason why people do it, but the common thread, I would say, is it's something that creates relief, for people. And that might sound counterintuitive if you're not someone who's thought about this much before when you're actually causing yourself harm.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately something young people turn to sometimes to create a sense of relief or to feel something at all. If there's a huge build-up of pressure or they're struggling emotionally, this can be something that they go to as something they can control, something that feels like it's theirs, and creates a very, very strong sensation that they're drawn to.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying it's not one cause, and that was interesting listening to Sophie's nuanced and pretty comprehensive recollection on all the different things that led up to that. And, certainly that inability to process emotion was clear, felt sorry for her. She's talking about this coping strategy of she'll be all right and convincing everyone that she was fine, when clearly she had emotions and insecurities and anxieties that were not dealt with.
Yeah, and we don't know for sure if it's because Sophie felt like she couldn't speak to her parents about it, or if this was something that she felt like was just hers, and she was, there was obviously a lot of guilt around it, but it was certainly something that was, quote unquote, serving her in some way. Just if she had been able to open up, to her parents or someone that she trusted, she could have avoided significant distress and isolation and pain that she unfortunately went through.
Of course, another one of the early memories that she shared with was the traumatic event and the bullying, and in particular that one incident. She was only 5. It's kind of a reminder of the lasting impact that trauma can have even within a loving and safe household.
Yeah, absolutely. And their family is unique. And I'm not saying this is why she was self-harming, but they were a family under a great deal of pressure. There was a lot of media scrutiny. There was a lot of public abuse, really, of them because of Dad being involved in football. That's not fair, for a kid to have to grow up in such an environment. Although she was, of course, very complimentary of her parents and her family and did feel very connected to them. It's sad that she had this thing going on that she felt like she couldn't tell them about. So I guess, for people listening, you might be wondering about your young person and what they're going through, or if you are listening to this and have experienced it or are experiencing it yourself. As ever, I am such a big fan of just open communication where possible, to ask those challenging questions, to talk to young people about these things, because it's only through breaking through that barrier that we can actually start to really gain understanding. And for Sophie, what she, I guess, really needed to hear from someone that this thing isn't your friend. It feels like it is. It feels like it's something that's helping, but there are other ways to let out this pressure, other ways to explore these feelings, other than holding it in and causing yourself harm.
Yeah.
And that happens through those difficult conversations.
Fair. And I guess a question that I have off the back of that is just, what are some of the other ways that people can relieve that pressure? Because, it's one thing, and it's a common thing to hear people say, we need to be able to speak about our emotions. We need to go to therapy. And Sophie reflects that she thinks that would have been really helpful. Maybe you can dig into other ways, though, that people, this build-up of anxiety, this build-up of pain inside, she needed to process it. How else could she have gotten that out?
We need to feel like those emotions are validated. And I suppose sometimes we can feel like it's seen as weakness or not coping or not good enough. There's some element of feeling like a failure sometimes to bring up that sort of stuff. And I wonder if Sophie felt a bit of that, in her upbringing, in a high-performance, maybe perceived high-pressure environment. Whereas what might have happened if she was able to open up about it is, first things first, she's going to say, it's okay to feel these things and it's normal to feel like that. So already that might take some of that pressure off, and certainly the sense of isolation. But then how do we actually process those feelings is a different question. So for some, talking through it, feeling connected, feeling validated, looking at things from a different perspective, that's going to do a fair bit of that work. For others, it might be more physical, the need to actually exercise or to, I guess, get that feeling out physically. I know you're someone who benefits a lot from exercise to help you process emotion, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And whereas I guess for me, I'm more on the thinking cognitive side of things. So there's any number of ways to do it. But you could see that, like, if we're not talking about it, we can get trapped in the sense that this is the only thing I've got. And I just feel sad. I feel sad for young Sophie that she felt like she couldn't or didn't want to share it with anyone because it was her own private thing to hold.
Yeah. And also, as you said, I believe in the interview, just so understandable that the coping strategy she learned as a young person carried through to adult years. I'm sure a lot of people experience that. You go to what is familiar, what is learned, and that includes destructive habits.
Self-harm has a complex reputation, I suppose you could say, and that some people would see it as just a cry for help. Others would worry that it's a sign of suicidal ideation. The truth is, it can be neither or both of those things, and we don't really know until we open up the conversation and ask. It can be very, very difficult to talk about. And if you're listening to this and you're not sure how to do that, well, I guess I would just say to keep it simple, in the sense of just saying, hey, are you okay? That you might have noticed some scars or something along those lines. It's very, very important that that's talked about. I've noticed that scar. Can we talk about that? Is there something going on for you? Is it something you'd feel more comfortable talking to maybe a counselor or a psychologist about? But we do need to talk about this. That's the first step. Beyond that, though, I just want to reassure people that just because there is self-harm does not necessarily mean there's any kind of suicidal thoughts or desire to end one's life. In fact, a lot of the time that's not the case, but it can be. So again, just the importance of open dialogue becomes essential.
Yeah. My understanding of self-harm before today was also that it was often linked to abuse. If you've been hurt as a young person, sometimes that'll eventuate.
Look, it can be, but honestly, there's no one pathway.
Yeah.
It's just, most commonly, it's the endpoint of young people trying to explore huge feelings that they don't know what to do with. And they find this avenue that ends up creating some sense of relief, and they just need help to know that there are other ways.
So the other main theme that we discussed in this chat, of course, was social media. I appreciated Sophie's willingness to kind of reflect on her need for validation when she was younger, as the younger sibling trying to get some attention. You can clearly see the trajectory there towards an influencer. But more than that, it was the conversation around social media itself and the trappings that she discussed from the inside.
Yeah, it was really interesting, wasn't it? The way that she's been able to connect with people through this relatable person that she is and the great storyteller that she is, and build this huge profile. But at the same time, social media feels uncomfortable. The more and more we're learning about it, the impact it has on our brains and young people's brains, and the dopamine trap and the way in which it meets those needs, but doesn't necessarily fulfill us at a meaningful level. It's an interesting counterbalance. And I really enjoyed her insights about how, I guess, really attractive that was early on in her career as she took off and built this profile, but then ultimately came to this realization that no, this isn't it. It's not meeting my needs at a deep level, and yet feeling perhaps a little bit stuck in it for the time being. Really interesting.
So this is an example of being able to now extend empathy to an influencer who's engaging in behavior that I don't look at and I don't value, but to hear the story of a young mum trying to make money to support her family, like, props to her for making this work in the way that she has.
Yeah.
And then, given that this is her platform, being willing to criticize it from the inside and to look at the dangers.
Yeah.
Again, I was just very impressed that she was willing to go there.
Yeah, and just her relationship to her own self-worth as mapped through her social media experience, realizing ultimately it has to be about how she treats herself, how she thinks about herself, and not this need for external validation that, of course, social media offers on such a large scale. There's a good message in there. But it's a complex challenge, isn't it? Like the need for validation that she's talking about, I think we can all relate to in the way we engage with online spaces. I know she did mention at the end there, she sort of feels less need for external validation, but I imagine that's going to be an ongoing challenge for Sophie. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for all of us.
Yeah.
For all of us. And I think that's part of the process here as we look back to our younger selves to try and get some comfort and self-assuredness in who we are by looking back, removes a bit of that need for external validation.
I feel a bit hopeful, to be honest, about where we might be going in terms of our relationship to social media. I mean, just speaking personally, I know I'm not really posting personal things online anymore. And I don't feel alone in that. I think that more and more people are distancing themselves, their private life and personal life, and maybe valuing privacy more than we used to when social media was brand new. What do you think?
I don't know. It's such a huge, complex topic. Maybe the case for our generation. I despair looking at the kids. And, our kids are a little bit different ages, but I've got 14 and 17, and it's just taken over that age group in a really frightening way. And
do they share their personal stuff on there, though? Or are they more sharing memes and things like that?
They share with each other. It's not public for everyone. It's hidden.
I suppose that's what I'm saying. In Sophie's early career, she's talking about putting her whole life out there for the judgment of others, and now wanting to move to somewhere where that's more just business and her personal is her own.
Yeah. So you wonder if the oversharing is reducing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's still so curated what people share. And I think that different generations all share differently. It's a big topic. But I'm not quite as hopeful.
Okay. No, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of the intentions of those creating those platforms, sure, I agree with you. It's a little bit grim, but I think in terms of social awareness, I would argue things are perhaps on the improve. We'll see.
Yeah, well, the government's ban is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Maybe worth commenting on just really briefly before we get to Sophie's letter. Of course, we've just got an interesting experience here. I don't want to speak outside my lane, but just from my experience with a 14-year-old, every single one of his friends, and himself included, have got around the ban in a second.
Right.
It's so easy for
They're
them.
tech savvy.
And it's not going to change their behaviour at all. But there is hope for those like your daughter going into year 7 for the first time. Maybe a bit more will catch on.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's more normalised that they just don't do that. I guess we'll find out in real time. But, I'm hopeful. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
Nick, thank you so much. Another episode and a lovely letter to look forward to now.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Sophie. And we'll see you all soon.
Okay, Sophie. You will work so hard to continually prove yourself, driven by money, the name, the lights. But success, you'll learn, is not in the applause. It is sitting at a table with people you love most and liking the person you are when the room goes quiet. You'll often be too much, too unafraid to take up space, and they made you pay for it. A little girl with a big voice, bigger opinions, and a fire too fierce to be dimmed. I know about the nights, the hurting, the anxiety of whether these thoughts will ever stop. It's suffocating, you're exhausted. Go, go, go. You battle a fight against your own body in a way no one sees for a very long time. You carved pain into yourself when all you wanted was to carve out who you were. You just wanted to understand yourself, and maybe even now you still don't. Life will be hard for everyone, you will learn. Your heart will want to help those even when it hurts you. But you are both resilient and breakable, and your life teaches you that it is okay to be both. Forgiveness will free you. Forgiveness will become your superpower, and letting go will be the prize you claim. You will grow into a woman who sees beauty in everything, in people, in their flaws, in the chaos. You will learn that every stumble was a lesson and every failure was a teacher. You will become a mother, and though your life is loud, chaotic, bursting with noise, your heart will constantly ache for the quiet with them, your deepest purpose. Sophie, stop chasing, breathe, be okay with simple, because in simplicity is where you will find your greatest you.
You're a Good Kid is produced by Nick and James Van Cuylenberg, recorded at Whitehouse Sound in Melbourne, Australia, with artwork by Dirty Puppet.
We acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which this podcast was recorded, and recognise their continuing connection to lands, waters and community.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures, and to the elders past, present and emerging.
If anything in this podcast has raised concerns related to mental health, please contact your health professional, or if urgent, call Lifeline on 13 11 14.